So my son, who has never really watched The Simpsons either, he's got like a Homer skin, and he's got a he's got a sexy Ned Flanders skin. Hello and welcome to the TwinCast pod. We are a podcast where we pick up an old video game, we dust it off, we turn it around in our hands, and we try to ascertain if it holds up today. My name is Clark, and joining us for today for our esteemed panel is Peter. He's right here. He's going to be hanging out with us. He's very interested in these treats. That's why he's being very focused on this little green bag right here. So. And we also have, you put in some quarters here so you can join us co-op style. Cam, welcome.
Yeah, and this one's going to be a little bit harder to pick up because it's a big cabinet. So it's going to be hard we have to pick this up together and kind of try to turn it around.
Yes. And we need to, like, if it's eating our quarters or something, we might need to kick the coin box or something to get it to work. But yeah, today we're talking about, well, the game that we're talking about is the Simpsons arcade game. But we're also using it as kind of an opportunity to talk about the arcade genre and the beat-em-up genre in general. So I guess it'll be like the arcade format and the beat-em-up genre.
That's right.
So there's not a lot of meat on the bone for the actual Simpsons arcade game, but there's a little bit of a shared history that Cam and I have with that game, and we wanted to do something different, which is why we picked this game. So.
Yeah, this is the first time we're going to be talking about an arcade game. Clark and I, we when we were growing up, we didn't frequent the arcade a lot when we were younger, but we did have some contact with it, and we'll go over that in our discussion today.
Yeah. Before we jump into it, though, just a reminder that this is a game club style podcast where we just pick up a game every month, we play through it, and then we talk about it, and we encourage everyone to join us with that conversation. So next month, we're going to be talking about Aladdin. Not just one game. It's going to be a dual pack.
That's right.
It's going to be...
we're going to talk about one of the biggest controversies back in the day when we were growing up.
It's going to be both the Genesis and the Super Nintendo version of Aladdin. So we'll be kind of tackling it, and we'll give the definitive answer on which version of that game is best. So... and we're excited because we actually are going to have a new co-host on for that one, our niece, who, we introduced her to video games, and this was one of the early games. I remember her sitting on our laps and watching us play. So
when she was very young.
So yeah, we're excited to talk about that next month. So pick it up, both those games. Join us next week for that conversation. All right, so Simpsons arcade game. Let's just overall, it came out in 1991, and I mean, everything I saw on Wikipedia was like maybe the first, like the springtime in 1991, which sort of lines up with the middle of the first season of the show, which is kind of crazy that they were able to put something out with that little material in such a quick time.
Yeah, and it hit right in the perfect time because there was a big Simpsons craze. Bart was all the big rage when we were in school at that time. We would have been in third or fourth grade.
Yeah, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing how Bart wanted you to eat his shorts.
I know. And he kept on telling me not to have a cow.
Yeah. Yeah, you would go like down the grocery aisle, and there would be like Bart's face on milk or something. Said don't have a cow. So yeah, it was like Simpsons mania back there in 1991, and so I mean we would have been 9 years old around that time, and it would have been animated. And I didn't realize this, but I guess this was the first breakout hit for Fox, the Fox television network.
Yeah, it was one of the things that helped establish it and put it in against, because they were going against the three juggernauts: ABC, CBS, and NBC. So yeah, it was a fledgling network, and it had this and Married with Children.
So there were two different variations on this game, at least in the United States. I think there were some different international variations of the game, but if you go into arcades today, you will either find a 4-player cabinet or a 2-player cabinet. And obviously, the more people you can get around that machine, the better. So if you find the 4-player version, that's really where these kinds of games shine. So I would say hunt that one down.
The 4-player one. The 2-player one does offer a benefit. Maybe if you're running MAME or something like that, you can actually choose the character that you want instead of having to have like 4 separate controllers in, because it uses, depending on which controller you have, is which character you are. So,
yeah, I mean that makes sense though if you just think about it like in like analog ways, like you're actually physically standing where Homer is.
Yes.
And you're physically standing where Bart is. So if you put your quarter in with the Bart slot, then you were being Bart. You were being Bart. So yes, if you are using MAME, then maybe the 2-player version, so you can select your character, would be a little bit more ideal.
Unless you're lucky enough to grab 4 of your buds and play. And I guess MAME, we could talk about this. Clark and I played a little bit over MAME with the net play, and you can do it that way. It was kind of laggy and not the greatest way to play, but it can be done.
We made it work. So, all right. So we are going to structure this podcast a little bit differently today. Instead of just diving right into this game, we want to maybe take a step back, and I have here in our notes to talk about our history with arcades a little bit. So I'm going to let you kick it off, Cam. So, like, when was your awakening to arcade games?
Well, I'm not sure if I had like an instant like awakening to arcade games. I think they were kind of always like a little bit there. You'd go to like a grocery store, there might be 1 or 2 cabinets there. You go to like a bowling alley, you might see a 1 or 2 ones there too. So Clark and I, we kind of grew up. We were too young to hit the first like big arcade wave, but we did come along, and we were coming of age when the second wave hit. So I think the thing that brought me to the attention of arcades is when you could play Super Mario Brothers 3 on an arcade cabinet before you could play it on the NES.
It's like a short, like maybe a 6-month window.
Yeah, it was a short window, and I remember they had it at our local grocery store, Reams, and we and I wanted to go play it really bad because the Wizard conditioned us that it was the greatest game ever, and
the Wizard was not far off.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite games. So our older sister Jenny would sometimes, as like a prize or a treat or something, would give us a couple quarters, and we'd go play it over there. And I remember playing it and trying the exploits that you saw on the Wizard there. So that was probably my first like real like excitement to play an arcade cabinet.
Yeah, and I think I probably saw, like, when you went into like Pizza Hut, you would see like one of those cocktail tables, of Pac-Man.
Like Miss Pac-Man or something.
Yeah, like Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man. And those were kind of cool. I remember sitting down and seeing like maybe like a Donkey Kong cabinet here and there. But it wasn't really until like either that, or I remember very well seeing Street Fighter 2. That one was at a different grocery store, IGA, the one I remember playing at. And that was like probably the next step above Mario 3 for me. It was insane to see those graphics and to see, and that's really the number one thing I remember most about arcade games is like at home we had some video games, but they were video games at home.
You have video games at home.
Yeah. Like what you saw, like they were like generational leaps better than what we had at home, which was
like a Nintendo,
like the NES, the Nintendo.
So if you take like the NES, and then what we'd see in the arcade would be stuff that you could see like next gen stuff already.
Well, yeah, a lot of it was even better than what you would see like on the Super Nintendo as well. So like, yeah, it was like insane, and so that was like the number one thing that. I guess it's just hard to overstate like how novel it was and how much I really wanted to play those games because they just looked amazing.
Yeah, it was a huge separation, as you said. Like we would see those games in the grocery store or Pizza Hut or whatever, and we really wanted to play those games. And it was like you said, it's really one of those things where the parents are like, We got the games at home. Why do you need to play these ones? They didn't understand. I wanted to shout out a couple other games that kind of stand out in my memory as being like a wow thing. And I must have been young. I can't remember the exact timeline in this, but I remember seeing the Star Wars arcade game, and that one's even older. That one's like 1981 or 2 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But it had those vector graphics.
It looked really cool.
And it looked really cool, like 3D graphics back then. And I remember, I must have been pretty young, but I remember standing and looking at that and just being wowed, coming down on the Death Star and going through the things. And the Star Wars cabinet was awesome. And a couple other ones I wanted to shout out were NBA Jam, and you already mentioned Street Fighter. Dragon's Lair was always one that I never really wanted to play, but I liked to just sit and watch. So
yeah. You had written down Outrun too, but yeah, those racing games look really cool as well. So, later on in life, by the time we were like mid-teens, later teens, I remember that's when arcades starting to get a little bit long in the tooth, and that's when we got things like Nickelcade.
Yes.
And I'm sure that most of you have those variations where kind of after the cabinets were past their prime and they weren't pulling as many quarters in at the high rent spots, then they would go to the arcade graveyard.
The retirement center.
Retirement center.
Retirement center.
And you would then just pay a flat fee, and back then it was crazy that you could go pay 5 cents to play those games. And that's when I first was able to actually get through a lot of these kinds of games, because it was just, when you played those arcade games back then, unless you were rich, you weren't getting very far into those games.
Yeah, like if you were going to play one of those games, we would get like a stipend of like maybe 4 quarters. And that's like what you got.
Yeah, if we were lucky. And
yeah.
Most of the time the answer is no.
Yeah. And so we would be relegated to sit and watching the just like the opening sequence or whatever.
Or watch the cool older teens.
Oh, yes.
They were playing it. Those guys that were like, I remember watching the cool older teens that were playing Street Fighter and are really good at
and
Street
they were
Fighter.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, arcades were a big part of, like, at least for me, like, of the video game culture and, like, my love of video games. And so to like totally block it out, I don't think makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad that we're talking about it. And as we get into it, there's a lot of things about the design sensibility of arcade games that really make it not ideal today to revisit these kinds of titles, unfortunately. And maybe we were already kind of touching on it a little bit, but I mean, these games were designed to eat your money, right?
Yes.
What were some of the tricks they would do to like get your money?
Oh, well, I mean, obviously you would your health would go down fast. The bosses would be sponges, and they would start blinking really early, and then you'd think you'd be good, and then you get all these, like, yeah, I'm doing it, and then you die. You're like, I gotta get to do it again. This boss is almost dead. And then little did you know that you're not even halfway through beating up that boss. So, I mean, yeah, they notoriously hard.
Yeah, I think I remember reading something that, like, these games had, like, a metric that they were, and I think that they would advertise to cabinet owners that, like, an average time of play before they had to put more money in. I think it's less than 2 minutes that they would try to hit before you were putting in another quarter to keep playing.
Wow. They were doing sabermetrics for arcade cabinets back then.
Yeah.
Big bucks. But I mean, a lot of these cabinets, I'm sure even back then, were thousands of dollars. So,
and while we're just talking about arcades, I think it makes sense here to just lament a little bit about the death of arcades. Like, there's still those Nickelcades around, and
they're still fun.
They're still fun, and you and I went and beat Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like a year ago or something like that, and that was a ton of fun. But I lament it because I bring my kids. I think your kids do the same thing. You bring them. What do they spend all their?
They go to the kid gambling section. That's the only game they want to play. Are those gambling games, and. Oh, they're sectioned off too. You have like the big flashy kid gambling section. Well, an adult gambling section too. You see lots of adults doing this too.
Yeah.
And you have that section, and you have the kind of like the sad, like rundown, like old video game cabinet section. And unfortunately, a lot of the older cabinets aren't really that well kept up. Some of the buttons don't work as well, and it's a little sad.
Yeah. So I know that I always like try to encourage my kids, like, hey, come back here and play some of these old games. But no, the shiny gambling machines, they're much more enticing. It's funny because I mean those old games led to those other games too. But yeah. Well, is there anything else that you want to just mention about with arcades in your history with arcades?
I think we've covered it all. I have a soft spot in my heart too for arcades, and it was a big part of our growing up, and that's one of the reasons why I love old video games too. So.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the genre that the Simpsons arcade game is in general before we jump into it, because I think it's a pretty staple genre of the 90s and the 80s, and that's beat 'em ups. What is your history with beat 'em ups?
I mean, it mostly started with the NES. I guess there could have been some proto beat 'em ups that you and I maybe played on, like our Apple II compatible that we think you mentioned. We called it Karateka, but Karateka, is that what they call it?
Karateka.
Karateka. I'm just going to call it Karateka. That's because that's what we called it. A little karate game, but you progressed through the game that way, and then it was linear that way. It wasn't just like the normal karate game where you fight things in a single space. So maybe that one was probably first. But the biggest ones that I remember are Double Dragon, Double Dragon is the biggest one, and maybe Battletoads.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite of this genre growing up?
A favorite. I mean, I'm going to say the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade game was probably my favorite. I remember how pumped I was when we got it on the NES. And this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade game is kind of in the same genre as this game. In fact, it's very similar.
I think it's actually built on the same engine.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's
same developer.
Yeah, and you look at the two games; they both are beautiful and have great animations and stuff like that. So I just remember we were huge Turtles fans. And
pretty much every kid of our age were. Yeah.
I was probably, I wasn't a huge Simpsons fan. We'll get into that a little bit too. I was like way more of a Turtles fan. So when it came to the NES and we could actually afford to play this game, it was a pretty good port too. So I think
bonus levels.
That's right. So I think that one probably is like the big one for me was the TMNT arcade game.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I mean, yeah, I also really liked, I would probably say TMNT, but I also really liked, I want to do a shout out to Golden Axe. We had a brother-in-law who had a Genesis, and I remember he brought his Genesis to our house and booted up Golden Axe, and it was one of the first times I think that we had played a Genesis, and I think it was even before the Super Nintendo was out, and so it was like maybe one of the first time we saw a 16-bit game at home. And one of the games he had was Golden Axe 2, I think. And so
and that one had like the D&D kind of theme with a barbarian and a dwarf and whatever the girl is.
Yeah, I mean we talked about this in general, but what makes for a good beat 'em up game like this genre? Like what separates like the strong games from the weak games?
It has to do with how the fluidity of the fighting goes, like how easy it is to maneuver from enemy to enemy, and how intuitive the attacks are between jumping attacks and your melee attacks and stuff like that. I think just like any game, the game design is key. How fun it is to play and how easy it is to pick up and move around.
Yeah, so like when you're looking at this, so I think you said fluidity. I think that like animations and tightness of controls are the things that you're kind of referencing there too. What about like complexity? Does complexity go too much into this? Like, do you like do the top ones in this genre?
I
Are they
think nowadays
complex?
people appreciate complexity and how to pull off your combos and stuff like that. Back then, when we were playing these games, it was more button mashing in it than anything else. And now I can appreciate the complexity of pulling off combos and all these kind of things. But back then, I'm sure there was people who got good at timing the attacks and when you're going to be able to control again. But we never. Did you ever feel like you were trying to figure out exactly the best way to maneuver your characters back then?
Yeah, it was all about spamming the attacks and
Yes.
I will say that, like, in this genre, one of the things I think really stands out are, like, and you mentioned it already, but, like, a good, like, well-designed, like, cool-looking boss is essential to, like, the success of these games. Like, if you have, like, a big boss sprite that takes up, like, a lot of the screen and is doing cool attacks, I think that's also what kind of separated some of the good ones from the not-so-good ones.
Yeah, and when we'll talk about how unfair these bosses can be. Like they have pre-programmed things. Like if you even get close to them, they're just going to kick you, and it's going to be hard. And some of those bosses can be frustrating. So
Yeah. Maybe while we're just to put the final thought here on this genre of beat 'em up, like it obvious, and you mentioned this too, but like it still exists today, and like I don't know, where does this genre have to go, and what does it still have? Like, what are some like the things that modern people can do to make these a relevant genre still?
I think the most important thing with beat 'em up games is they're almost like a communal game. The co-op is a must. Playing these games with someone else, I think that's pretty much the only way I want to play these games. Playing by myself is not as fun. So co-op and the way you can connect with other people with these games is very important. Recently, the game that I've enjoyed the most is the Shredder's Revenge.
A couple years ago, yeah.
A couple years ago, and that one was a fun one to play and has good network.
We got on with Cole and Carl and played that whole game. And
yeah, and it was fun. It had some sweet ways to combo. You have a dash ability, and so I think if it's easy to pick up and play, and you can play with friends, and you don't have to scratch very deep under the surface, and you can have fun. That's what I think.
There were some even light RPG type elements in that too, right?
Yeah, but the thing about that game too, and you could see this, is it was much deeper than it was too. So if you wanted to, you could master the game, kick up the difficulty, and get really good at combos and figure out what works. We never really did that. We played through on just like the normal difficulty and played through and got the story and had fun playing it all together, and it was fun. And we haven't played it much since then.
No.
There's been DLCs and stuff like that. But if you want, they added complexity to it, and you can figure it out and you can master it if you want. So that's what I think needs to go for a good beat 'em up today, something like that.
Cool. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the Simpsons brand in general. It's still going.
It's still around today.
It's in like season 36 or something like that, or something crazy. It's been around forever. What is your history with the show and just the property in general?
Well, we were prime age for The Simpsons when it first came out. And we grew up in a more conservative environment, and our parents didn't really look kindly upon, more specifically our mom didn't look kindly upon The Simpsons. And so we didn't really watch the show all that much.
But we had lots of friends who did.
Yeah, we had lots of friends who did. And shortly, by the time we hit our teenage years, we would see reruns all the time on Fox 13. So I think I probably absorbed episodes here and there, but it was never like my favorite show or anything like that. But I always appreciated you could tell that it was written well, and the jokes that I did get were funny. And
so we had like Carl would always like spout off one-liners from it, like
Yeah.
the goggles, they do nothing.
Yar, the hot pants.
Or like I choose you. Like
Yes.
these are all like timeless. Like any Simpsons fan have like had these memorized and gone through, but like like, and I just kind of learned this stuff through osmosis.
Yeah. It's not like I disliked The Simpsons. It's just that we didn't have we weren't really encouraged, or we were discouraged from watching it. So
There is a video game reference that Gene would always make, our friend Gene, who's been on the podcast before. And he would use it as his screen name for a long time.
Thrillho.
Yeah, because Bill House would put in his name for a video game, and he would put Thrill House, but there wasn't enough room, and so it became Thrillho. Good stuff. I do also remember playing some of the other Simpson games, and they were crummy.
Yeah, Bart versus the aliens.
Bart versus the space mutants.
Space mutants, that's what it was.
Yeah, and then Bart versus the world, also really terrible. And then we got Bart's Nightmare.
That one wasn't as bad.
It was still pretty, like...
It looked much better.
It looked better, and it was better than Bart versus the Space Mutants, but it definitely wasn't as good as the arcade game.
No.
So yeah, it's still going. And it's still relevant today. Jeremy was just playing Fortnite, my son Jeremy, and they had like the whole island themed after The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's actually, there's another Simpsons movie coming out soon. I think that's probably why they probably have some sort of tie-in with that. So,
yeah. But apparently, like that Simpsons season they did on Fortnite was like the biggest thing they had in Fortnite for a long time. So.
Really?
And it just went away. There's no longer there. But so yeah, my son, who has never really watched The Simpsons either, he's got like a Homer skin, and he's got a sexy Ned Flanders skin. Stupid, sexy Flanders.
Yep. Oh man.
So yeah. Anything else about The Simpsons that you want to?
I mean, we probably don't need to explain The Simpsons very much to people. It's such a landmark of pop culture that people know what The Simpsons are.
Yeah. All right, let's shift into like the last thing before we kind of start judging the game itself, but just our personal history with this specific game. We've talked about the arcade, we've talked about the genre, we've talked about The Simpsons. Let's bring them all together. There was a confluence of things in the 1991 that brought all these things together into an arcade game. What is your history with that arcade game?
Well, I saw it all the time in the arcades when we would go there, but the one place that we would go to when we were on vacation over in Bear Lake, there was a KOA, and they had an arcade there, and one of the cabinets they had was the Simpsons arcade. So sometimes when we'd be on vacation and we didn't have our Nintendo or whatever with us, our parents would take us over there, and that would be one of our times where they would give us money and maybe even some of our own money that we'd saved to bring over there. We'd get to play it. And the biggest memory I have of this was when we had sat there and we sat down and we played through the whole game. Now I can't remember. Did we have help?
Well, see, this is where I was going to ask you. I seem to recall, like, because this is one of the reasons why I think we kind of chose this game, because this is a very like standout memory.
Yes,
core memory, because we never beat arcade games.
We couldn't beat that.
And this is one of the few times, I guess, spoilers, where we actually
beat the game.
And I think it was my memory from it, and I could just be misremembering that. We started playing, and then people came and joined us. And there was like a ring of people like watching us play the game.
That was my memory too. And I had the same thing as you. As I can't remember if they were just people watching us or if people joined us. But I think that people
were playing with us. I'm pretty sure. So.
Yes. And I remember being super worried we were going to run out of money. That was one of the biggest worries I had. We're going to run out of money.
Well, I think we were really close.
But we'll talk about this, but the very last two bosses on that thing, I think that's where half of our money went on just those two bosses.
They really gatekeep that end screen. But I just remember thinking it was super epic because, like, there's not a lot of times where, like, as a 9 or 10-year-old kid, that you're being cheered on and, like, having people watch you play a video game in an arcade like that. Well, I guess it was an arcade, but...
It was like a game room. They probably had... 6 or 7 arcade things and a pool table.
Yeah,
it wasn't huge, but
yeah. I mean, in my mind, I remember it for being more than what it was. It was like, and then everybody clapped, carried us out on their shoulders. No,
hip hip hooray! You did it. You beat the video
But I just
game.
remember that there was at least a group of people watching and interested in seeing like this game actually get beat because you didn't see games like that get beat very often.
Yeah, so that's the biggest core memory I have, and obviously it's a shared memory here. So,
and really, it was probably just like I think that we had probably seen that game, but it's just probably just one of those chances of fate that was sort of like the new game there at the time, so that's why we chose to play it because, like I said, we weren't really Simpsons fans, but because it was there and it was. The highlighted game there, that's why we played it.
Yeah. And other than that, I played it in Nickelcade every so often. You and I think, played it a year or so ago at a Nickelcade, but I don't think we got that far. But the only way you can play it nowadays, outside the arcade, is just on MAME. Just there's an emulator.
Technically, there was a way to play it on Xbox Live Arcade and PSN, but it's been delisted.
Yeah, you can't play it anymore, so which is too bad.
So let's just talk about this. That's our experience, like general experience playing the game. It was really that one glorious moment.
One moment in time.
We've been chasing that high for the rest of our life. Never quite got back to that.
Do you ever go to eBay and look longingly at cabinets that are being sold?
I've done that a couple times.
You're like, oh, it's only $1,400 plus $1,000 shipping.
Yeah, and then probably another $1,200 in repair costs.
Yes.
All right, so Cam, let's dive into the lore of this game because it's got some deep lore, right? What's the story?
So, the Simpsons are taking just a stroll down in Springfield, and then they happen to just bump into Smithers, who's coming out of a jewelry store, and the diamond goes up in the air and lands in Maggie's mouth, and Smithers grabs Maggie and kidnaps her. That's the game.
Yeah, because Smithers is totally like a mustache twirling bad guy in the show.
Yes, he's definitely not that.
I mean, isn't the whole point? Again, I'm not like Simpsons lore, but isn't the whole point of like, isn't Burns and Smithers like super rich? Why would they need to steal a diamond?
And why wouldn't they just give the baby back and just take the diamond back? I mean, anyways, we're not questioning that too much. It's just like, okay, the Simpsons are going to try to get Maggie back.
They just needed a reason to go get Maggie. And that's all it was, right? So,
and it's just Smithers that's the bad guy, right?
Or is it? You peel back the onion and you realize there's a final boss.
Just like all these games back then. But I mean, spoilers. It's Mr. Burns, but you don't even like see him at all until he's the very last boss. Kind of like with TMNT, where it's Krang, and then all of a sudden you fight Shredder. But
yeah, I mean, it's like pretty much the same as any beat 'em up at that time. Like you go through a stage, there might be like a little cutscene that will just lead you to whatever the next location is. It's all just an excuse to give you another left to right scrolling screen where you're beating up, I guess,
random bad guys.
In this case, white pasty office workers.
Yeah.
With ties.
Yeah. You will fight some like mafiosos, I guess, and some.
Yeah, or some characters from Matt Groening's other property,
Life in Hell.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's all just an excuse to get you like battling, and there's 8 different levels in this game.
The level designs are interesting. You have the Springfield looks good. Everything looks great. Yeah. Were there any standout levels to you that you wanted to specifically talk about?
Well, as I was thinking about this, and I think that these games might front load a lot of the interesting stuff in the first couple levels, because those are like the levels that people are going to be seeing the most.
Yes.
No, there's definitely interesting stuff in the other levels, but like in that first level, like if you're standing too close to a door when it opens, like you'll get pushed up against the screen, like it'll fly out to the screen, and there's lots of like characters in the background. You can see Principal Skinner walking around. You can see lots of different stuff, and like there's a lot of detail, especially in those early levels where you see those kind of details, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the dream sequence kind of stood out to me as an interesting level, and that was a little bit later into the thing. So they did have some interesting stuff later too.
Yeah.
So
the dream sequence. Let's see. There's always I think the laziest levels that you see in these there's always the elevator levels.
Yeah. They're in every beat 'em up. You go on some elevator platform.
Yeah. In this case, the elevator was for some reason in the middle of a graveyard, and it connected to Moe's Tavern.
Yeah.
Who knows why?
I don't know why either.
Okay. Well, what about the fighting in this game? So that's basically all you're doing in this game is fighting. Does it feel good?
It for the most part feels good. Every character just has a basic attack, a jump, and a jump attack, and that's. I mean, there's two there's like a low jump attack and like a high jump attack.
And then there's also the special if you hit jump and attack at the same time.
And then you hit jump and attack at the same time, and that's pretty much all the attacking except for the team up attacks,
which I think is one of the most unique parts of this game. I think they would bring it in later. Beat 'em up games, but I think this might have been one of the first games to actually have like team up, contextual team ups depending on who you're teaming up with.
Yeah, and so like let's just say you're Bart and like you have a Bart and Homer that if you go stand right next to each other, Bart will jump onto Homer's back and Homer can just huck. Oh no,
they just like attack.
They just do like a little attack. That one's it's Lisa and Marge Marge throws Lisa.
Yeah. And in my when I was researching this game, I heard a lot of people talking about the team up attacks, but a lot of people talking about how annoyed they were because in the attract mode it would always show Bart and Lisa's team up attack, and they like hold hands and they start screaming and going across running around.
Yeah.
And so that noise sound of them going, like would just fill the arcades.
And so people were annoyed by it.
People were annoyed by that, yeah. But
other than that, that's pretty much
that's basic. That like what is the tactics though in this game? So like let's separate the tactics. Like when you approach just a random
beat 'em up
goon on the screen, not a boss, but like what is your strategy?
Well, a lot of times I'll just try a basic attack first, and then a lot of them the good strategy is you just do the jump and attack at the same time, or I'll do a jump and then the jump high and then kick if I'm trying to be sneaky or whatever. But other than that, that's like I just feel it out.
Yeah. Another strategy you can kind of take is to try to like get them to come like down from above, like, or you come down from below them and attack
try
them.
To attack them.
Because if you like come at them straight on, a lot of times they'll like attack you before you can attack them.
I know, especially when you're on a boss, as you approach them, if you try to get anywhere like in front of them, they're just going to kick you. You don't have any chance to hit them at all.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I was going to ask you about boss strategy because of that reason is a little bit different. So you're usually trying
the jump attack,
like the far jump attacks or something like that.
Yeah, And a lot of times you just get frustrated and just go try to get from behind and just spam attack.
Well, that's one thing that you can try is if you're playing multiplayer, you can try to like pincer attack.
Yes.
Like if you have a buddy who's like got him distracted from
one
in front,
side,
then you can kind of come in the back usually, but they'll usually be smart enough and turn around
and they just instantly kick you.
Yeah.
And it's usually not fair.
Yeah. Usually, just basically always, it's never fair. Well, I mean, that's really it for the gameplay. Oh, there's some mini games in there. What are the mini games in there?
Oh, you can pump up a balloon. I remember dominating you.
Yeah, you did. You did.
You just got to put the controller, or you just have to tap them as fast as you can.
You're giving away your trade secrets here.
Yes. What was the other? There was one other mini game, right?
It was waking them up from the dream. You had to like slap
them. Yes.
And it's the same thing. You're just alternating, and you're trying to.
Yeah, it's just pounding the buttons, alternating like that. That's it. But I do have to say the bosses are pretty spectacular in this game. Obviously, they're hard, but they're huge, and they're big. The sprites take up sometimes maybe like a third of the screen. And they stretch, and they do interesting things, and
have several different modes in the case of Burns.
Yeah.
Mr. Burns. He's in like a mech, right?
Yeah. He kind of fights similarly to like Krang.
Yes.
I remember thinking that. I'm like, this is vaguely similar to the Turtles TMNT arcade game. So
yeah,
made by the same people. So.
Yeah, and I think that's not a coincidence. But yeah, he had a lot of different phases and had a lot of different attacks. He's like dropping missiles. I think he drops nukes in his office.
Yeah, he drops nuclear bombs.
Yeah, but I mean, nothing will ever beat that time where we were fighting him. He's blinking red. We're running out of quarters, and we're trying everything we can to beat him, and stole probably $12 to $15 of our cash at the time.
It was worth it, just because we can sit here and talk about it now. Yes. That $10 to $15 investment back then, it's paying off now.
Yeah. What about the ancillary things around this? We already talked about the graphics and how nice it looked, and I don't want to like skate past that too much because it looked amazing. Like, yeah. Obviously, I heard some people say that like compared to some of the old animation in the Simpsons cartoon, like this was actually on par with the animation in the old, like, or at least better maybe looking than some of the early Simpsons.
Oh, you look at some of the first episodes of the Simpsons, it doesn't look very good.
Yeah,
this one actually looks like a Simpsons like season 2 stuff, like good stuff.
Yeah, I mean it looks really good and it's really eye-catching, so I can see like why it was drawing people in. Because it looked awesome.
Yeah, and it had like great voice samples
from the actual like character actors too. I think.
Yeah, and it has the actual Simpsons theme in it,
and it sounds good.
And it sounds great. And when you're in the arcade, that stuff really pops.
Yeah, so and not just the Simpsons theme. Like they had the regular theme from like the opening of the show, but like a lot of the sounds for each of the levels are just a variation on the thing, and those sound pretty good too.
Yeah, and you don't really notice it too much, but I did take a chance to when we were just playing it here to listen to it, and it sounds good. So yeah.
All right.
Very high production quality. It's a quality game, and you can tell that the people who made this cared, and it's great.
Yeah, if you want to beat 'em up from that time frame, like there's a lot worse than this.
But we need to talk about how it replays today. So
yeah, all right. Well, let's wrap this discussion up and let's give it the definitive TwinCast score. So just a quick recap. We have kind of a rating system that we do on here. It's kind of repurposed from a tier ranking, so S through F. But we put numbers on there so we can kind of average it out. So 1 through 6, 6 being, if it was released today, it would be like among the best games released this year. 1 being like it wasn't good, it was never good, and then all the ranges in between there. let's have you start, Cam.
Okay, well, I'll give a quick recap and what I think of this game today. So this game doesn't really hold up today. You sit down to play it. It's hard to play. You either have to get to an arcade or set up emulation on MAME. So it's not the easiest to play, and it's definitely not easy to play over the internet or anything like that. So if you're going to play this today, try to go to someone's house and play it on MAME or whatever. Or if you're blessed enough to have your own arcade machine, then that too. But it's going to be unfair. It's the arcade style doesn't really hold up today. The whole try to eat quarters out of you just doesn't feel fair nowadays.
And it's not really even fixed very much by just having infinite money. Because
yeah, I mean, you just all you do is press start over and over again, and then it doesn't feel like a fun game after that.
There's really no challenge.
There's no challenge. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna die here like 4 or 5 times. Whatever.
I guess you could theoretically like dial up your own challenges. Like, hey, how many? Let's see if I can beat this in under a certain amount of
credits.
Yeah. And so I guess that would probably be the fun way to like.
But
to metagame around this today.
With how much game bandwidth we have nowadays, who's going to want to do that? Yeah. I'm sure there's aficionados of this game, people who are really good at it. And I think back in the time, it was a great game and it had its great merits. But it doesn't really hold up today the way it is right now. But so I'm going to give the way it is right now in this game, I'm only going to give it a 2 out of 5.
Okay.
2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Well.
Or 2 out of 6. Oh, no, 2 out of 5. We have 5, right?
It goes up to 6.
Yeah, 2 out of 6. Yeah. We've just never given much over 5. So yeah 2 out of 6.
Yeah. So before I give my thoughts, spoilers, it's going to be pretty similar to Cam. I did message Carl, who we played with. So we played about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we got Carl on and played with us. Well, I said, hey, what were your general thoughts? And it's going to be kind of in line with what you said too. He said, fun but limited, clearly full of stuff that doesn't line up with the show, pointing to the possibility that they had only early pre-production materials to work from. Also, the game feels exactly like other beat-em-ups by this company, Konami. The unique family team-ups were cool but hard to pull off. I'd only recommend it to other retro enthusiasts or major Simpsons fans.
Yep.
So we're going to say that Carl's ranking was also a 2. I'm going to put 2.5 just to jump it up a little bit, but I basically agree with everything you say, and it's just really limited by the format of being an arcade game and being a beat-em-up game. So if you don't have strong nostalgia for any of those things, there's really not a lot of reason that you should be pulling this up. I guess if you have an interest in history, it might make sense to like pull up some of this game just to visit what it was like back in 1991. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend this.
If you are at one of these like nickel arcades, go over there and check it out. It's worth it to see how it was.
I will say I did pull my son in, who's 12, to play. And he played, we beat the game in 35 minutes, like about the same time that we played. And he said that he enjoyed it, but I could tell like it doesn't grab your attention like Fortnite or something like that. So I think he was being polite and said that he enjoyed it. I just really wouldn't recommend it for a lot of people.
Let me ask you, what would your desire for like some sort of like a remake or like a Shredder's Revenge version of like the Simpsons arcade game? Would you be interested in something like that?
I mean, I might play it.
Where they updated it and polished it.
I'm just
and
not
made
like super into the Simpsons is the problem.
Yeah.
So, I if I was more interested in the property, then maybe. But I'm not that interested in the Simpsons. Like, if they brought this back and gave it the TMNT treatment, the only way that I could see myself playing it is if like you were also playing it, if Carl was also playing it.
Yeah. Which is the best way to play beat 'em ups with other people.
So I wouldn't play it otherwise. As far as the things that they could do to make it good, let's give our maybe we need to have like a sound effect or something whenever time we suggest that they make something a roguelike.
Every single game we say would be better as a roguelike.
Yes. We need to do like a spin-off podcast about roguelikes sometimes because but yeah, I mean, that's just the honest truth is I don't think that I would be that interested in updated unless you were playing it. So.
Well, we gave it a 2.16. That's out of 6.
Okay.
So.
One of the lower scores, but like I said, nothing will ever beat that high of us actually beating that game. So it holds a special place in our hearts, even if we don't recommend it for you today. So that's our cast for today. Thanks for joining us for TwinCast, and we're out.
Thank you.
Oh, that's at 10.
Oh, so it is louder.
That one's too loud.
Did you just say 666?
Well, I'm putting all the levels at 6. Lucky numbers.
This is what he wants the most right here.
You have his attention.
Does this weird man have the thing that you want?
Well, you better give him one before he starts. He should have that.
It's a small one. Can you come shake? Do we come shake? Shake. Do you do shake? There we go. Shake. Shake. Good boy. Okay. Wait. Wait. Yes. Yeah, what a good boy. You woke Peter up.
You were a good boy. You want a treat? Peter, you want a treat? Can you show the camera what good boy you are?
Let's see. Let's make sure that you're good.